So I've been incredibly depressed for several months. A great way to open, right? I kind of always said that if I was gonna do content creation stuff like this, I was never gonna be one of those guys who got on the camera just to talk about how sad they've been and all that jazz. And in fairness, I'm not. That's not the main focus of what I wanted to talk about here. Mostly, I want to talk about the new Frankenstein movie, because that's what's been on my mind the past while, and that's part of why I'm making this video. Because holy crow, everyone in my life knows that I'm a Frankenstein fanatic, and if you're following this channel, obviously you know that as well. And so I knew I was gonna go see it when it was coming out, because if anyone in this world loves Frankenstein more than me, it is Guillermo del Toro, and he's been trying to make this movie for forever. You know, I remember reading about the one he was going to make for the Dark Universe, and how that got canned when, you know, the Tom Cruise Mummy movie was not very good, which I have seen now, and yeah, no, it's not very good. But finally he got to make it, and I finally got to see it. So the reason I bring up that I've been super depressed for the past couple of months is partially as an explanation of why there hasn't been a lot of FrankenFiles content or anything on this channel here, but also to kind of give groundwork for what I'm about to say about this film. Because what a film it is. I feel like even if you don't like this movie, which there have been some kind of negative reviews here, the thing everyone can agree on is the visuals are incredible. This is the sort of art book from the movie, and everything in here is just stunning. Like, Guillermo's like commitment to physical sets and using like minis where they can't do physical, and like using CGI as like the bare minimum. He makes these grand scenes and these massive landscapes, and they're just absolutely stunning. And I feel like if anything about the film, you can't say he failed at that, because he absolutely nailed that. I think most of the comments that I've been seeing are things about like the ways people feel like the Frankenstein story was mishandled, which I understand, is especially if you're looking for the novel, this movie is not the novel. It's got pieces of it in a way that like I think is used really, really well. Like, I see this film and I go, okay, Guillermo has clearly read the original novel, and he has clearly seen all of the original films. And the way he is melding those together, I think works really, really well. You can't say that this wasn't a stunning film, because it absolutely was. And I was absolutely stunned when I finally got to see it. People who follow the channel know that we haven't put out a lot because we had a big move. And in that move, I had to get a new job, and so I've been working this particular job, and this particular job was only meant to be a temporary thing to get me by while I picked up something else, and then nothing else kind of came along, and so I got stuck at this job that I did not like, that was not good to me. But, you know, it was one of those things where you say, okay, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to get through this, and in whatever meager amount of spare time I have, I'll look for something else. Because, you know, when you get to the end of a miserable work week, the thing that you want to do is throw your head against the brick wall that is the job market right now. How thrilling. And eventually, after a long time, I think I've been at this job for about a year or so, a little bit more than, and I finally got to a point where I had to do something, because I just couldn't keep doing what I was doing. And it just so happened, the way that it lined up of me, for the moment, just going down to part-time at this job. And so I wrapped up my last like full-time week, and the absolute like relief that I had in my spirit of knowing I was never going to work another full-time week at this awful, awful place, even if I was still going to be there part-time, it wasn't going to own me the way that it had been. And the way that I feel like I cracked open and felt like my old self in a way that I hadn't in a really long time, it was just this huge flood of relief. And the next day, I went to go see this film. And I went with a whole bunch of friends because, again, anyone who knows me knows how much I've been looking forward to this. And so we made like a whole evening out of it. I spent my whole day leading up to seeing it that night. I rewatched the original Frankenstein, the 2014 Victor Frankenstein, and then we got through a couple of my favorite moments in the 2004 Frankenstein miniseries from Hallmark, just, as preparation, as excitement leading up to this film. And I finally got to see it. It was, as I've been talking about, stunning. I think the performances are really, really good. I think the visuals are absolutely amazing. I think the main critiques of this film have been story. And I think it kind of depends what you wanted to see from it. And I feel like people went in with an expectation of what they wanted from it and then were disappointed when it wasn't what they wanted, rather than kind of taking it for what it is. And I think that's totally understandable to a degree, because, it's Frankenstein. Like, everybody knows Frankenstein, and you come into it with these, expectations, these predispositions. But while there's definitely things in the story that I wish were slightly different, I think things like people were complaining about, like, so much time being spent on the making of the monster and how did Victor get his funding. And I think that is actually really quite interesting, because, yeah, to do something this huge would kind of take something like that, I think. And I think it's an interesting kind of take on Victor's character as, the guy who is making these judgments of what is best for humanity. And, where is he getting his stuff? Because it's the kind of thing that you would expect. Like he's like a Victorian version of a Silicon Valley guy. And I think that was really interesting, as well as, like, seeing how from the ground up, like, his funding is literally coming from warmongers. Like this project was corrupted at its core. And the fact that what came from it is something that was wholesome and beautiful was not because of how it was made. And I think that's interesting. I think that's a really cool take to give. And the operatic nature of that construction, I think, is incredibly apt. Especially, again, given how much Guillermo loves the original films, it's like, yeah, of course he would do this. Of course, this is his symphony that he's been writing for years. So I loved getting to see that play out. The reason I'm bringing up so much about what I've been going through in this time and why that led up to seeing this movie is because of its ending. Because of what this movie is about. Because Guillermo took an interesting take with the creature itself. In that he took sort of what I would consider like kind of a fan theory of the creature cannot die and made that explicit canon within the movie itself. So every time the creature is like shot or would be killed, he can't. And he keeps getting back up and he keeps living. He keeps having to live. And I thought that was so interesting. And I should have realized way earlier how that was going to play out, but I didn't. I was just letting it sweep over me. And so we get to the ending, and we get to the sort of final scene in the ship where Victor has finally heard the full breadth of the creature's story. And to some people, they think this ending is a bit rushed, and I can see that. I certainly, when I left, was like, I kind of wish a little more time had been taken here. And I think I've come around on it a little bit, just in terms of what had been set up in the creature's story. But having that final reconciliation where Victor hearing the creature's story and saying, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Beautiful. Loved it. And the creature, hearing all of this and deciding, not because Victor's earned it, but because it's what they needed, and it's what the creature needed to forgive him. Beautiful. I loved it. And then we get to the part that broke me in half. Because like I said, I had been going through so much. And it was a real gradual build to the point where I felt like I was going to break for me in my life. Because I was just like, I just gotta get through this week. I gotta get through this week. I gotta get through this week. I can do it. It'll be fine. These are the miseries of living in the 21st century. This is the world that we live in with the capitalistic system that we have. And so I just kept pushing through and pushing through. And it was killing me. And it wasn't until I finally had to make the choice to stop. I had to make the choice to end it. To end that misery, even if I would have to lose my insurance, I would have to lose, the amount of money that I was making, which while it wasn't much, was, paying bills and paying for trips and things and other things. Like it was money that I was having to say no to. I had to make that choice so that I could live. And getting to the end of this movie, where the creature has to make that choice to live. Like Victor tells him, like, what choice do you have but to live? And I mean, we've seen the opposite of the choice of enduring that the creature has been doing for the whole of the movie. And then finally getting to this moment and to the final shot of this film where the creature walks off to the tundra and in the sun takes down his hood and just feels the sunlight on his face. And in that moment chooses to live. The way that broke me. I was inconsolable for like 5 minutes after the movie had ended and the credits were just rolling. Because Frankenstein, again, has kind of been my whole thing. I've read the book so many times. And I love the book. It's a phenomenal book. One thing you can't really say about the book is that it's hopeful. For a story that is life out of death, it kind of comes back around to death. Like, the way the novel ends is with the creature taking Victor's body and going off into the tundra saying, I'm going to burn both myself and him on our funeral pyre, and no one will ever see us again. Like, it ends in a really hopeless way. Which, I love the ending of the novel. I think it's beautiful and kind of bitterly complex in that way. I love it. Let the record show. I love it. But for Guillermo del Toro to take this story that he clearly knows inside and out, to take it and make it, instead of this, life out of death into death, to take it and make it life out of death. To come through the suffering at the end and still say there is good in this world. To say you can suffer and you might not be better for it, but you can come through it. You can, after everything you've been through, choose to live. It broke me. It broke me in a really, really beautiful way. Because I am choosing to live, finally, in a way that I feel like I haven't in a long time. And the timing of it was almost scary of getting to this point where I was like, yes, I am choosing to live for myself, to make my life better, to choose to make my life better, and continue to make that choice even as I, have to struggle with things like figuring out healthcare and figuring out how to move forward with a limited budget, having to, I can take those. I can choose to take those. If it means I get to choose to live. And it was not something that I was expecting from this movie. And I'm so glad that it was. Like, I am so glad that it ended that way. I didn't even... It's the kind of thing that I didn't even think about. Like, again, Frankenstein, it's a story I love. I've seen so many versions of it. I've seen it play out 1,001 times. And thinking about it, thinking about how many of these films actually end with hope for all this discussion of what is life worth, a lot of them end saying not very much. Like, life, though it has been abhorrent to me, is precious, and I will defend it. And I was just so pleasantly caught off guard by that. And I think that is so beautiful and powerful. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein is not a perfect movie by any stretch. I have some personal issues with... Guillermo clearly does not like Victor very much. And I understand. But he really went out of his way to make Victor just awful and take away some of the moral complexities of the creature, which I wish he had kept. I kind of wish that the creature had killed some people to make it that beautifully moral, complex, emotional dilemma that is one of the things that I love about Frankenstein. So, like, there's things that I kind of wish were a little different, but overall, like, I love this movie. I think it did such a good job, and I think the version of Frankenstein that it presents is a really powerful one and a really beautiful one. So, I am continuing to choose to live. And I hope you do too. Again, life, though it can be abhorrent, is precious. And I hope you also choose to defend it. I don't have a great ending for this video other than to say thank you to those of you who are still watching us, as well as some of the new ones that we just met at the most recent events that we've done. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us here. And I am hoping that I will have more time to work on this, because this is a project that I really love and really care about and really want to continue to put effort into and to continue to make things for you. I hope you stick around, and I hope you get to see what more fantastic things we make here. Thank you all the same. If you just wanted to see this and you've made it this far, thank you for being here, and thank you for being alive on this beautiful, terrible, fantastic, strange world with us. We are all creatures in our way. We are all amalgams of the things that we are made from and the things that we make ourselves with, and it can be terrifying, but it can also be beautiful. Thank you.